Hello, viewers. I'm happy to announce the commencement of the first podcast of School of Design. And more than happy, I feel lucky to be starting it with such an esteemed first, Miss Ishita Priyadarshini. She's one of the first pioneers of design field in India. She currently serves as in the leadership capacity in Microsoft India, and I feel proud to share that she leads the largest researcher team all over India. Ms. Ishita, we welcome you to the podcast of School of Design. Uh, I would like you to share your inspiring journey with our viewers, that how it started from an architect to becoming a designer today.
And then leading research. Yeah, yes, yeah, the journey is really long. Um, right. So I think just want to share that I'm actually sitting with my faculty who taught me in architecture. So yeah, so now as you know, I've done architecture. I actually practiced as an architect for almost 3 years before I moved into design. While I worked in architecture, I felt like I had to do a little more. I thought that I was a little bit of a geek. So what I did was I uh, did my master's from NID after bachelor's of architecture from APJ School of Architecture. And yeah, in product design, I really enjoyed system thinking. That was my area, which I thought I used to get lost in. Spend a lot of time. I think that made me a little bit of a ecosystem thinker, a little bit of a research mindset person, thinking things from a macro level. So right after I passed out from college, I don't think anybody hires you for being an ecosystem thinker.
You are being hired and we are doing wonderfully well. So I really can't deny that statement.
So yeah, so then after after design, I then went to G Healthcare. That is where I designed a 12 channel low cost ECG machine. And I was a bit surprised. Architect and doing all these sort of things, but
From that mega scale to the micro level, that's the beauty of the field of design, if I understand.
absolutely. It's spatial thinking, it's ecosystem thinking, it is corner thinking. You can think about making a pretty corner for yourself, and from that to all sorts of things. And now I'm into digital world. So yeah, but yeah, this is what I do today. I lead. I like to define myself today as a UX leader with a research focus. Um, and I say this because a lot of boundaries of what we do go away when you're working as a team together. None of the digital products can be made in silos, right? So yeah, so I'm a UX practitioner, a leader with a research mindset. I lead a large team of researchers. In the past, I've worked at Google, I've worked at startups, I've worked at consultings, a bunch of places. I've designed healthcare systems, I've designed a few other things as well. But eventually, I think what I got really excited about in startups was the search of something. The search page itself, as a user, I never realized how complicated it is to actually create it. So I worked in the startup on that search page. And then I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do now for the rest of my life. It is complicated enough to keep me engaged.
So that understanding of the system thinking has actually helped you a lot, and it helped you to be where you are right today. So I think that's a remarkable journey, Ishita. And I feel proud. As your teacher, I really feel proud.
Subject is what you're talking about. System thinking is what intrigued me in my master's as well. So that is why we introduced this subject in our curriculum, which was not there. So now I would request Professor Dr. Ekta, who's the Dean of School of Design, to take forward the discussion.
Thank you so much, Mahima. So, just to start with, I understand that as the head of the School of Design, and just I have this teaching and experience being in academics for more than almost 23 years now. And I've come across different generation of these students and the designers, and you people were the first batch whom I taught. So I just want to understand, like, if I talk to you, all know that as a design, the field of design has evolved over a period of time. And we have evolved from creating the products to creating the ecosystem, like what you have been saying right now. So what is your take on this whole evolution of the field of design with a perspective of the students today? Because it's difficult for them to understand this journey. Now the design discipline has several different sub-disciplines. Earlier, if you talk about 2 decades, 3 decades, or even 5 decades before, there were no divergence of the field of design.
Correct.
So how do you see this whole evolution, and is this evolution helping the field of design being strengthened more, or is it creating more silos within the field of design?
I think there are multiple questions in what you just said. But if I have to break it down, basically the first thing that you're saying is that the field itself has changed, right? Specializations have disappeared. What has now happened is that everybody is probably thinking design only in screens and not other places. So let's talk about evolution in a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about what design thinking and education really helps you do in the professional life, because it'll be easy to make that connection. So design thinking, if you think about it, what's the difference between art and design? Design is a structured way of creating creative outcomes again and again. In art, you can't do that. In art, you create something and you don't know whether it'll happen again or not. So design is that structured field where you can do things again and again. Any creative thinking, when it's structured, it is helpful, right? So what I'm trying to say is that design education actually helps you do that. It tells you the principle, it puts it in frameworks and structure. And a parallel of it is like a pen and paper, right? When you put it out there on pen and paper in, let's say, a grid, suddenly you're like, okay, this is going to be this small and this large and things like that, right? So design helps you there. You can't take out the structured creative thinking from any field of design. Let it be graphic design, let it be typography, let it be toy design, car design, everything, everything requires that structured way of thinking. I want to say that it's not like the fields have gone away. It's very similar to what happened in industrial design, industrial revolution time, right? That things started evolving so quickly that everything became the same. Design is in that phase where mass introduction. So everybody is doing very similar things now in design. I want to say that my batchmates, I think I'm probably the only one who's in digital, but they are amazing people. Some of them are amazing car designers. They work with Ferrari. They work with the best cars that you talk about in the world today. My friends are also, or my batchmates, some of them are illustrators, They are not graphic designers. They've become illustrators. They really illustrate things. And they might be 1 and 2 people who do that job really well. And, companies in the world hire them to do the stuff. I know one of my batchmates who designs prosthetics for movie industry. Everything, every cut, hang, bleeding that you see in the world of movies might come from them in Bollywood, So what I'm saying is that if you study design and if you find what you're really good at, you can be extremely good at it and you can be wanted for. That is one way of looking at design. It is to find yourself, find that creativity. And the other way of looking at it is, it's amazing. It is exploding. It's the next MBA. You can get a great job. You can get great paid. You can continue into digital world. So that's the difference actually that you're talking about. The fields haven't gone away.
It's something like once upon a time, the field of engineering was. And when computer science came, the whole landscape changed. So currently I understand with respect, things have to coexist and grow together. So now pivoting the theme to the very queerest topic, and I should say anxious one also, that is the artificial intelligence, which scares us a lot, many of us a lot these days. But I understand there are two schools of thought with respect to artificial intelligence also. So we were talking about the imagination. So imagination is what takes us everywhere. And in the word of one of the very famous designers, design leadership is all about imagination. So what happens if that imagination is taken over by the artificial intelligence, or we start thinking along with the artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I really like that question. I think there are two parts to it, right? If you imagine with AI, or if AI replaces your imagination. So AI really can't replace your imagination. It has been created by us. It is being fed by us. It will only tell us as much as we know. The interesting thing is that there are many people thinking in many ways. So what AI basically does is collating all of that data and throwing up that information in front of us. So which one should I answer first? Will AI replace creative thinking? I think that's a good one to talk about. AI can't replace creative thinking. It can productionize it. And I don't know, can you imagine a world where everything looks the same? Like human behavior, human beings, we are all very imperfect people. And when there is too much perfection around, it only lasts you for so long. Tech has had phases. There has been internet boom, there has been .com bubble, there has been e-commerce bubble, there have been multiple things which have come, and AI is really hitting the productivity a lot. But it also does other things, right? So I feel like we should give it a little time for AI to settle down and figure out what it is. Because right now people know that there are a million things can be made with it. Which one will really stick around is hard. Why I'm saying this is because, see, human brain evolves at a certain speed. We people from Microsoft and Google's and Salesforce of the world can create these products and can keep creating these features. But our users, again, like me, like you, are we able to use it and get used to the idea of using something so quickly?
I rightly agree with you. Till date, I am so much averse of those digital watch, Android watches there, people. Even I don't wear it because somehow my mindset, my conduct is not aligned with that thing. Until unless I see this analogous watch, I'm not able to perceive myself as a human.
Correct. Exactly.
So that's the art of that dial, that beauty of this circle, that beauty of those numbers, Roman numbers which you see. So it itself is a kind of soothing to your eyes also. And when you see that black screen, and somehow sometimes I feel it is going to make my life more complicated, because then you end up aligning it with all of your system. So that is whether I use technology to make my life easy to conduct, or whether I'm using technology to make my life more complicated.
That's a discretion, and that's a discretionary call that all of us take all the time. So
I think that differs from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the watch, if we are talking about the watch, then it would be, I would not see it the same way as she sees it. And the generation next to me will not see it the way I see it. So
absolutely. But you agree that there's a factor of evolution here, right? That's, you don't see it the same way, I don't see it the same way, she doesn't see it the same way, in whatever age difference we are all at. AI is evolving faster than we are evolving. So it is throwing a lot of things to even today's generation. What is going to stick with this generation, which becomes their own, is still, we are still to figure out. Social media took its time. I remember Facebook, I started using.
I remember Orkut was there before Facebook.
Absolutely. Right? And social media evolved, and I started using Facebook in 2008 or something, 7 and 8, and I grew out of it. I'm not on Facebook anymore. Evolution, right? We're talking about evolution. So all I'm saying this is AI is amazing. It is doing amazing things. But will AI replace something? I'm not sure. All of things are evolving all the time. Some things become part of our life, some things do not. I am not someone who believes that AI is here to replace something. It is
So I think it is more like a kind of collaborator that we need to see AI as, and just see, like you said, that how it can make, for example, like we talk about the field of design. So in words of the Herbert Spencer, if we put, so design is not just solving the problem, it is something which is like enhancing that experience every day. How that experience can be more relevant for the people who use it. So probably we need to change our mindset with respect to this. And like rightly she said, so every people perceive things or the design or the technology in their own way. So the beauty of our time and as a humankind, I feel that the beauty is that we all exist together in this diversity.
absolutely, and AI can help you do things faster. I think we shouldn't shy away from that.
So I think that there is still a lot more to look forward to. And as a designers, as a humankind, we should not be very apprehensive. And we should be more positive with respect to the kind of changes that it can bring to our life, but the positive changes.
But I feel the negative change that is very prominent that we see in our students is that the students have stopped using their creativity, their mind. They are completely relying in terms of research also, and in terms of other creative things also.
Oh my God, I'm doing the same. And I think it's not healthy. I agree there. I think if we, and I'll just say it for now, right? That if we imagine something as a assignment, as a project with a deadline, with something that they have to do in order to get ahead, that has a very different connotation, because I feel like that. I have deadlines, right? I have to produce a deck in like 2 hours. What do I do? I'll happily take help of AI, but I've been trained to think on my own also. Great. But all I'm trying to say is, when I don't have that constraint of being all the time evaluated, all the time structured, creativity comes alive then. You are the expert, you know what the structure.
I understood. It's more like you are saying that student is always putting a tick mark in the checklist or the boxes that we have created for him to align with.
And there you need structure. We were talking about,
but the structure has to be there with the flexibility. For example, I'll just like to put on this forum that I was just thinking, and because you have been my student also, and she is a teacher and she also has her own experiences. What if we give students this flexibility? We have been talking about the new education policy, where in the country like India, we have followed a very conventional and a very rigid system where evaluation has been a very big part of assessing the mindset of the people or the knowledge of the students for that matter. What if we give that kind of flexibility to the student, give them choices with respect to the courses and with respect to the hand-on experiences, where we allow them that during this 4 months or the 3 months period, these many hours they can engage with any person, any designer or any corporation or any of their own work which creates some kind of product which aligns with their
absolute
objectives or the aims of the course, and then we evaluate that.
So I was just looking at some students' work, okay, and they were showing how they have created a sketch of a prototype, like how the prototype would look. And I was very confused, ma'am. I'll tell you. I was like, when I was imagining something when I was a student, I would go freehand sketch. If I was creating a drawing to imagine a prototype, I would get scared. And I don't know if you remember or not, you used to be when you were guiding me in thesis, you allowed me a lot of freedom. I was all lost.
I still remember that office building of yours, if I am right.
Absolutely. So you gave me a lot of freedom, which allowed me to think a lot. I'll come back to that in a minute. But what I was just saying was that I couldn't reconcile in my head that why do you need to create a freehand prototype sketch which looks somewhere in between a
Drafted one in the
yeah. Why do you need that? So I kept probing. Why do you need to put it? Why? 5 whys behind every question, you know. I didn't get an answer. And then I just suggested them that there are 2 things that you show in design. One is how you think and how you do. You could be an amazing finisher. Talking about AI.
That was an amazing conversation, Ishita, and I feel that it gives us a lot of clues as a school what kind of reforms we need to do when we are talking about the evaluation scheme or structuring our courses. So I would like Mahima to end the conversation.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming today, and we look forward for the workshop tomorrow. I feel that it's going to be very interesting and intriguing for the students, and they'll learn a lot. Thank you so much.
But just in the end, I'd like to, on this platform, any message, any one-liner which you would like to give for the new generation?
I would say keep using AI. Till it really tells you that the moment you are using AI, everybody's work is going to look the same. How are you going to differentiate?
Absolutely.
What are you going to bring onto the table? I think kids today need to reach to a point where they realize that, oh my God, my work is just sounding the same. So I would just say keep using AI. Let it tell you that you are a better thinker than AI,
Absolutely.
you're a better creator than AI. And then go back to your creativity and do things yourself.
Absolutely. That's a very strong message, I must say, Ishita, and I'm sure the young generation will be able to align their thought process with your message.
And
Thank
it's
you
a
so
very
much.
different perspective. Nobody, I have
It
not
comes
heard
from the
anybody say
experience,
that.
I feel, because being worked with so many big organizations like Google and all, I'm sure that you have that perspective that it can never and it will not empower us. The humanity cannot be just taken for granted.
And I'll tell you, I write a lot of papers. I have to say this on camera that I write a lot of papers, decks, and everything. I use AI versus I put my mind, put something, and improve it with AI. The quality is completely different. And there's no edge in AI. It just makes you feel smart and intelligent, but it can't make you creative. So if you're finishing up a nice, creatively thought thing, use AI. But if you're thinking, use your brains. You're so much better than AI.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ishita.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching our podcast. Do like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one.